Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look back at the summer of 2018, specifically July 2018, which was a record-breaking hot and dry month. It was the warmest summer since 2006, the whole of summer 2018, the driest since 2003, and the sunniest since 1995, with specifically July carrying that, if we're being honest. For some parts of southern England, from June until latter part of July, we saw over 50 days of consecutive dry conditions, and temperatures were widely above 30 degrees for about 15 days during July and early August. Now, it does compare very well to previous summers, and there are lots of debates over what was the best summer historically, going all the way back to 1976, and we'll try to answer that towards the end of the video at the start of the video, by having a look at the CETs, as that's really the best way to compare them, looking at the direct statistics. So if we do start by having a look at the mean central England temperature, again, it's irrelevant what exactly the value is. It's getting the average temperature in a centralised region. But the best thing this is useful for is to compare years and to look at anomalies. So you can see July for 2018 was a 19.3 degrees CET, incredibly high, an anomaly of 3.3 degrees. Now you can see early in the year we saw the beast from the east from the end of February to early March, and you'd think the anomaly is only 0.7, minus 0.7 here, but it's because the beast from the east was split between the end of February and early March. The big dent it put in the CET was sort of between months, and you can see on the chart here, the beast from the east down here, almost down to the record-breaking lows for the central England temperature on that period. But we're here to talk about the summer, and you can see the summer overall was very warm. June was 2 degrees above average, August was 1 degree above average, with their CETs coming in the 16-degree range. But it really was July that carried the summer, from making it a warm, hot summer to a record-breaking, one of the best summers that we've had in recent history. Now, the biggest thing about it, as I said at the start of the video, is the relentless heat over a number of weeks, and you can see this on this chart on the right. If we try and zoom in, you'll be able to see here that the blue line is the observed central England temperature throughout 2018, and generally it's very up and down. The beast for me is going very cold, very hot compared to average spell during the end of April. But if we look at July, you can see the blue line is pretty much above average for the whole month. Starting at the end of June, where we saw a hot spell develop initially as the high pressure built in. The high pressure stays around, gets a few knocks here and there, and the CET drops more towards average, but always stays just above average. And then we see a final hot spell at the end of July to finish things off for slightly cooler and more unreliable temperatures come in August, but still it is generally above average. So it's the fact that the CET is above average for the whole month on every single individual day. That is the really quite incredible thing about this month. Other months come out with huge anomalies too. Even in 2018 we've had some big anomalies of 2 to 2.5. But there again, pushed by individual events, either warm or cold. Here's just the relentless well above average. Now we get over to quite a monotonous chart here. Again, this is just a whole bunch of data showing the individual CET temperatures going back for centuries. Now, if we do look at 2018, you can see the CET for July here is showing 19.2, so a bit of discrepancy actually in the Met Office data. But 19.2, and we've got to compare that to all the prior years. So if we go back to 2022, so last summer we saw 40 degrees, July CET was 18.2. So again, last July, again, was very warm, but really was carried by that hot spell. Didn't quite have the relentless heat that July 2018 had. If we go back, you see 2013, 18.4, very warm, plenty of summers here are in the 16, 17 degree range, and really the hottest summer, as I said at the start of the video, hottest July, if we go back, is 2006 at 19.8. That is ridiculous, 0.6 degrees above 2018. 2018 was relentless in terms of its heat, but as I said, it only really had the real hot spike where temperatures got really high towards the end of July, where it got up to about 35 or 36 degrees. If we go further, 2003, again the temperatures were even higher in August, but July was very warm too. Again, we saw our record-breaking temperature in 2003 there. Again, that's been broken now, but regardless, that is still a historical sort of event. 19 degrees seen in August 1997. 1995, very hot through July and August. And if we go back further, we don't see anything towards 19 until 1983 at 19.4. And of course, we go back to 1976, a historically dry summer, again 18.6 observed there. So you can see back, if we're running through the CET, it really is top 5 Julys in the past 50 years or so. And depending on what you prefer, drier conditions, thundery conditions, you could argue it's one of the top 5 summer periods, 3-month summer periods in the last 50 years as well. Really, really quite a historic summer with that, going back to 2018. And again, could we see it this year? June is definitely higher than 2018, but as we've seen so far through July, it's been pretty abysmal so far, with the CT nowhere close to 19.2. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing anything comparable. But regardless, I think many people probably wouldn't want a repeat of 2018, given how relentless it was. If we do quickly go through the reanalysis charts, we're able to see what actually occurs. Really, at the end of July, if we actually put on the temperatures, which we can see the pressure, we see the isobars here. You can see it really starts at the end of June. You see high pressure builds in, and this high pressure goes nowhere. It gets squeezed, gets squished, pushed left and right, but really it doesn't go anywhere. And right at the end of June, we see a push of southerly winds. We see some hot conditions come in, and right towards the end of June, we do see temperatures rise to around 30 degrees quite widely. Best temperatures actually in the north and the west, under the centre of the high, with very little influence of the slight easterly breeze coming in with this high pressure system. As we progress beyond that, the air mass actually cools down slightly, but it's homegrown heat. That's what we really develop, and you can see that we just stay in a warm air mass, average to above average upper air temperatures, but at the surface it just completely culminates in very hot conditions. As we progress beyond that, see very little influence from anything other than higher pressure. Brief little low pressure system there around the 16th, 17th, bringing some fresher conditions in the north and west. And western Scotland do see quite a bit of rain actually at times, but elsewhere it is very dry. North and west and parts of Scotland really see the brunt of anything coming in off the Atlantic. As we head towards the end of the month, still under higher pressure, still moderate air masses moving in under higher pressure still, and then eventually we do see a dive of this low pressure system out in the Atlantic. And replacing the high pressure pushed to our east, and the Azores high push back out into the Atlantic and towards the Azores. And what this does is it signals the end of the hot and dry spell, but the days prior to it, we drop a very hot southerly wind, and this is where you see the temperatures get up to 35 degrees. So most of the month is around the 30-degree mark, relentless heat, but nothing record-breaking in terms of individual days. It's really towards the end of July we get very hot spike in upper air temperatures, and in surface temperatures as well, with temperatures, as I said, high as 35 degrees. Before we see low pressure move through, and we do see quite a few thunderstorms actually, a lot of French imports across the east coast, which we'll actually have a look at in a minute here. And then eventually we do see more of a westerly flow. August still above average, but nowhere near as dry and nowhere near as warm as July. Now, if you look at some of the anomaly charts, if we start on the mean daily maximum temperature, you can see July insanely hot across much of England, with the mean maximum temperature around 26 degrees. And if you have a look at the 1991 to 2020 anomaly, it's 3.5 degrees above average in many of these regions. That's a lot higher, quite widely, than the 3.3 CET anomaly. Now, the reason why the CET anomaly is lower than this is because the overnight temperatures, the minimum temperatures, actually pulled it down. Only here, anomalies here are only around 0.5 to 1.5. And I say only, but comparably to 3.5, it isn't anywhere near as high. Now, the reason for this, why the daytime temperatures were so much hotter than normal, and the overnight temperatures were only a little bit warmer than normal, was because, again, the origin of this heat is homegrown heat. So what that means is we've got a warm air mass, but it's the sun during the the peak strength of the year, the sun just powering all that heat towards the surface. As soon as the sun sets, the air mass isn't ridiculously hot, so it does allow quite a bit of radiation escape, so we do see coolish temperatures overnight, comparably to when we see a Mediterranean air mass move in. So essentially what this means is that we saw very hot daytime temperatures, but only moderately warm overnight temperatures, meaning that the overall CET wasn't quite as high as it actually could have been if we saw more of a Mediterranean air mass establish itself. But at the same time, it's impossible really to see a Mediterranean air mass stick around for more than sort of 5 days or so, simply because that southerly wind is going to get cut off at some point. It can't stay stationary like that. So again, this is sort of the easiest way to get this much relentless heat, but just shows you why the overnight temperatures weren't quite as high, again proving that analogy I said of just simply homegrown heat. The other big thing is the rainfall. If we look at the actual amounts, pretty much zero across much of central England. Actually, western Scotland did see quite a bit, as I said. Weather fronts coming into the Atlantic collided with western Scotland and sort of petered out. And if we look at the 1991-2020 anomaly, much of central England saw around 20% of their normal amount. The only reason why this wasn't even drier was because we did see some big thunderstorms right at the end of the month. But when you add on June as well with this, where it was very minimal in terms of precipitation. June wasn't quite as hot, but it was even drier. When you add on, coming off June, July felt even drier than it actually was, simply because of how scorched the ground was. So yeah, very dry summer, very relentless, before it did eventually end in a bit of a thundery boom. And if we just finish off the video by having a look at the lightning strikes, you can see we did see some significant storm activity, especially down the east coast, with a lot of French imports and storms out in the North Sea. A lot of Kent clippers, and it was very interesting storm watching, especially towards the end of July. We did see a lot of those thunderstorms move in as we saw that thundery breakdown. Lots of very interesting videos and pictures coming from many coastal regions of these huge storms out to sea, and many of them coming inland as well. And it did provide a bit of a satisfying end to that heatwave, finally seeing some proper heavy rain towards the end of that month, but still hadn't stopped us getting into drought conditions in many regions. It was a proper hot summer, one I'll always remember. And again, is it the best summer we've ever had? Many would argue it's a different summer, but I think that goes back to individual memories of what you were doing during that summer as well. But for me, 2018, historic, one I will always remember for how relentless the heat was, how relentless the drier weather was, and how it wasn't completely oppressive. It wasn't sort of high 30s. It wasn't like, oh, I can't do anything today, it's too hot. But it was just that sort of conditions where you just bank on it being hot every day in the mid to high 20s or 30 degree range every day, and you almost forget that we're in the UK and that we, for sort of 75% of the year, it's about 10 or 15 degrees and raining. So yeah, it was a historic summer, and hopefully we see something similar to that for maybe a week or two. Don't really want it for another sort of 5 or 6 weeks like we had in 2018, but another week or two of this, maybe in August this year, would be quite nice, of something similar. So we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks and next few months, but truly is an exceptional month back in 2018, and I'm sure we will see something similar to this in the future. And with all the talk of climate change and generally air temperatures climbing by a degree or two, it'll be interesting to see if we did see a very similar month come off in the next couple of decades. It'll be interesting to see what the CET would come out with that. Would it be very similar, or would we potentially even make the jump to a 20 degree CET? That will be probably our next historic milestone. We've hit 40 degrees top temperature. The next historic milestone might be reaching that 20 degree CET. Again, that does bank on a full month, so a lot can go wrong with that, but I'm sure we'll be flirting with that in the next few years, in the next few decades. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you are looking forward to some warmer and sunnier weather, Sorry if this video has brought back some enjoyable memories, but we're not looking likely to be seeing that much over the next week or two. But of course, I'll be back with the forecast videos very soon, so do keep up to date, and I'll see you again for another video soon.